Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. This is a space, a safe haven, whereby we look at spirituality, zodiac, numerology, and also psychology in a beautiful mesh in society. Think about it that way. The beautiful triangle of spirituality, psychology, and society. For today, I would like to shed light upon the name of the channel, the new name actually of the channel, which is Scorpittarius. And if you know by now, I do change the name of the channel every now and then because it's an ever evolving channel. So, this is the reason why I renamed it as Scorpittarius. Scorpittarius are basically the cusp between Scorpio and Sagittarius, so at the end of Scorpio and the beginning of Sagittarius. And if you look at this from a sun sign, we're talking about a date range about November 19th to November 24th. And I fall in this category, by the way. So I'm a very cuspy. I am a Scorpitarius girly here. So the name of this cusp is the cusp of revolution, or another word for it, rebellion. There's a lot of rebellious attitude in this. And from my early years, I was very, very guilty. I think I'm more peaceful now, but before, oh my god. And I will be shedding light upon my own experiences with this cusp, but it's a really tough one. So let's expand on the strengths. Basically, people from this cusp are energetic. You can feel it because there is this fire energy. And at the same time, they're adventurous, which is, again, it gives the notion of Sagittarius. So they're all about the next adventure, the next venture, the next experience. They're very powerful, and this power is derived from both zodiac signs. So from the Scorpion, from the Scorpio depth of power. That how can I say? It's a very different type of power. It's very silent but deadly kind of power. And then Sagittarius has this. Think about the archer and how they are. Like they're really bold. That bold and bravery comes from the fact that they're seeking the truth and nothing but the truth. So imagine the combination of that type of power. Even though they're different type of power, but together, then you're dealing with a bombastic, powerful human being who is not afraid to plunge at the same time not afraid to speak out, speak their mind and heart at this matter. They're accomplished. And it's really interesting because the Sagittarius is all about education, enlightenment, the next degree, the next skill, adventure, understanding, the intellectual prowess, the intellectual sphere. And the Scorpio is as well expanding in nature. There are people who like to know the mastery of it, of a certain realm. So imagine the the breadth and the depth of knowledge and acquisition of knowledge and mastery and the practical mastery that happens when these two type of energies are in one person. They're generous, and this goes both ways. The generosity comes from the fact that as a water sign, as a Scorpio, water flows and water is very, very generous because wherever the water goes, wherever it flows, it basically enriches and nourishes every living being around it, right? Anywhere it goes. All that stream, the water stream, the ocean body, all the water bodies, they are always giving. The water element always gives because it is life itself. And then you get the fire energy, you get the Sagittarius, who is all about living and being alive, and by the nature of being lively and actually going out there, being outward. But by default, they have to be generous, generous in their time, generous in their material well-being and dwellings, generous in giving. So Scorpitarius are notorious givers, and because they are notorious givers, they attract some serious vampires. They do attract a lot of takers. So Keep that in mind, okay? The other one is passionate. And this is really interesting because the passion here, the combination of fire and water, you'll end up with a boiling water. But what I'm trying to say here is that they are passionate because the fire sign is all about action and learning, and especially the Sagittarius, about action oriented intellectuality, right? So that's like the nutshell of Sagittarius and experiences. And in Scorpio is passionate about the depth, the truth, the hidden, the mystery, the undiscovered, the uncharted territory. So imagine the amount of energy, right, and the power and the drive to learn more, to push the wagon, to experience a new altered reality, to bring forth a new reality to themselves and to the people around them and to the society as a whole. See, this is why the word revolution comes out, because revolution is all about bringing, sweeping the old and bringing the new. So, by default, they are revolting against their own past self, their own existence for the betterment and enhancement and pushing the humanity forward. And then, of course, the humorous. I mean, if you got a Sag, if you know a Sag, you know that there's a lot of humor out there. But the fun part is that being a Scorpittarius, your humor becomes pretty dark because of Scorpio. So you might have some rough, dry humor right there and pretty dark humor. So don't be surprised if the type of jokes that your fellow Scorpittarius bringing out there is a bit like it's not really for everyone. Be careful. All right. So what about the weaknesses? Yeah, it's a combination of the both. And that's the weird part because you get the best of things and you get the worst of things. That's how duality works, right? They're secretive. So they're not like Sagittarius. They take the Scorpio notion here. They're secretive. They're not going to tell you everything. And even if you provoke, if something is a secret and it's put on the tab of incognito tab, it's an incognito tab. No matter what way you want to hijack it, it's an incognito tab. You'll never know. Even if you press for 40 years, you'll never know. It's a choice, by the way. It's not like a default secretive because that's what about it. No, it's literally they choose to be secretive. It's a choice, and I'm guilty of this, by the way. And because of that, a lot of people um, do have hard time to trust me in a sense because they couldn't like walk around all my tabs, as they say. Like they cannot surf all my tabs. So like, why are you hiding some pages? Like what is there to hide? It's just the nature of like the nature of the moon. You're not supposed to know everything, and there are things that are kept within oneself. I have had a lot of difficulties with this with very close family members where they think they are entitled to know everything about you because they have a certain, authority over you. And then it's just by nature, I am not the person who's going to tell you everything, no matter how powerful or influential that person is going to be in my life. So, secrecy is sacred, privacy is sacred. Mystery is just is like a byproduct of this, but secrecy is really important. Selfish. Yes, this comes from both areas. Scorpio can be selfish as well, especially they have an individual agenda in their life and they really want to make it happen. So, and don't forget, there is Mars in there, and Mars is all about action oriented and making things happen for themselves. So the Martian vibes from the Scorpio is meshed with Sagittarius, which Sagittarius like they have a sense of irresponsibility. When we say irresponsibility, here's irresponsibility of others or others' needs. It's like they're responsible for themselves and make sure they're gonna be eating and funding their adventures, but you won't really rely on them on taking care of other people for a very long time. So that is something that both the Scorpios and the Sagittarius kind of they have they have in common is the fact that they're hyper individualistic people. Rebellious. I mean, don't boss them around, period. From both sides, whether it's Scorpio or Sagittarius, you're dealing with a dominant creature here. And you're dealing with a hyper individualistic, intelligent, dominant person. So it's very difficult for someone to just order them around, and they may have been troublemakers when they were young, They may become extremely stubborn when they are in their early adulthood and not quite, make the cut in the employee world because they are really, if they don't see the logic behind something or they find something as a waste of time and or waste of resources, they don't really, they will not gonna respect your authority because it's like you're not managing well. So that's a problem, by the way, and that's a big problem to Scorpitarius. And I think Sagittarius has this, Scorpios have this, but the combination is lethal here. We're talking about a multitude of rebellion in the energy itself. They're wild. Uh, yeah, I am wild. I'm more peaceful now, but in my younger years, I am wild in thought and in action. I lived my life and I made sure that I experienced what I wanted to experience. Period. And the logic behind what I was doing and why I was defiant of any, like, I didn't see the risk of things in a sense. Of course, there's calculated risk. You don't put yourself in dumb situations, but the idea of following another person's template so I can, conform was, it did not make sense because I felt like a wild horse and I really wanted to run and I wanted to go and see the jungle and experience the forest and drink from wild streams, places I've never been. So it just made sense that I was a bit aggressive in my nature of when I want something and I really desire it and I really want to make it happen. So I do admit on the aggression because that is one of the weaknesses of Scorpitarius is being aggressive. And when they say aggressive, not necessarily physically, but you can be mentally aggressive. Like there is a high chance of competitiveness when it comes to intellectuality. So I will admit that I am aggressive intellectually. Like I will push the wagon if needed. Like if there is something to disrupt, I'm there to disrupt, especially in my line of work and my line of passion as well. And they're blunt. Don't expect sugarcoating. Don't expect, unnecessary indirect way of, putting things across. The blunt situation put me a lot of problems, by the way. Like I can't date. And because of that, I will just speak my mind. I'm just comfortable speaking my mind, and the other person like, ooh, she's rude. Oh, she's straightforward. Ooh, she's direct. Ooh, I don't know how to handle this because there is no buffer, and it put me in a lot of trouble. By the way, you guys, it's not an easy thing, but between me and myself, I am honest, and if this honesty cannot be fathomed by others, then this is where you have to decide how are you going to, kind of fix a little bit or deviate a little bit so that society will not be harmed by your extreme honesty, right? And misunderstood. Because you're honest and you're aggressive in your endeavor and you're adventurous and rebellious and wild and you tend to keep things hidden, you're misunderstood by default. And it's very difficult for you to understand the Scorpitarius. And it's very difficult for you not to judge them because they are different and they're a combination of two zodiac signs. They're a combination of two distinct elements, which is the fire and water. And these two are powerful in their own, and if they're combined, then you're dealing with a spring, boiling water rushing down the stream. Do you know how it feels like? Just grab some boiled water and just, touch it, and you'll understand how it is. So, how Scorpio Sagittarius energy works together, and that's a very interesting thought if you think about it. The Scorpio is water, as we said, right? And the Sagittarius is fire. So they're opposing mixes, by the way. It creates complex personalities. They're complex because of the fact that you got fire and you got water, okay? So they're by default misunderstood. People will not understand a lot of things. You have depth thoughts and reflection at the same time. You can be action oriented, impulsive, and adventurous. And this sometimes are like, are you an extrovert or an introvert? What are you? Like, do you like to be alone or do you really want to be in the center of a lecture room providing your latest research? You see, it's an interesting paradox. And lately I've had someone who told me like, I can't understand you. You're exhausted. I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. I tend to be exhausting because I myself have contradictions within me that I have to manage every now and then. I have to manage this energy. So I'm not putting the burden onto you to understand me. Just be compassionate and experience me rather than understanding me. So it's all about balancing out the qualities, you see. So you can have adaptability here and there. And if these energy management is successful, then you'll be able to be a powerful, generous, and friendliest people you can meet. And scorpittarius can at first be intimidating, but as I said, don't try to understand them, try to experience them, empathize, find something in common. Of course, you will. And one hint, go for the intellectual prowess. Go to the intellectual sphere, the headspace, and there it's gonna dribble. So, what do they love? What is the love of the Scorpitarius? It's freedom, freedom, libertad, Freiheit. It's freedom. Okay? You cannot box these people. They're freedom loving creatures. And they will fight for it with an intense passion. And they will do what is necessary and might even surrender any form of control just to make sure that they have freedom. I hope this was valuable for you, and perhaps there's a Scorpitarius in your life and you're like, oh, what's going on with them? I hope it shed light upon this cusp. And don't forget to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts. I love to read them. And of course, share to whom it may concern. Have a good one. Bye.